these days, these boys will take a compliment. One of these days, these boys will take a compliment. One of these, I'm manifesting it. I'm manifesting these boys taking, accepting, incorporating a compliment into their reality instead of hearing a compliment and going, oh, no. That's all you. That's not me. That's you. I just want them to take a compliment. This is all I want. All I want. Hello, and welcome to Stray Kids, the Megaverse YouTube version. My name is Lullaby B. I am a therapist and clinical social worker, and this is my new standard YouTube introduction. You see, ever since I started streaming on Twitch, I've become very, very bad at remembering to do any sort of basic introduction for the when I transfer the recordings from Twitch to YouTube. So now I am putting in this rote introduction. Please watch it at least once. You don't need to watch it more than once, though. Like I said, my name is Lullaby B. First of all, and very importantly, if you happen to be one of my clients and you have found me, don't watch my K-pop content. Please don't watch my K-pop content. If you feel a deep and overwhelming need to watch my K-pop content, please talk to me first so that we can make sure that it is a clinically not inappropriate decision for you. Second of all, if you're watching my K-pop content and somehow you figure out who I am, which would probably not be that difficult, but you do so, please don't request me to be your therapist. That would be an inappropriate introduction to a therapist. Those disclaimers aside, if you're watching this, you are probably a number of videos into a reaction series, probably the Two Kids Room reaction series. I don't know how long this introduction is going to last, whether it's going to last beyond that or not. So I guess, I don't know. But if you are somewhere in a series of reaction videos from me, I might recommend going back to the beginning of the series, or at least watching episodes of the same people of whatever this episode is. I talk about a lot of stuff and I refer back to a lot of things because, as you notice, this is very long-form content. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to, but there might be certain things that are very confusing or don't make sense to you if you haven't seen any of my prior content. Another disclaimer, I am not making this content for stray kids. If for some really bizarre reason you happen to be a stray kid or happen to be somebody who feels very, very protective about how we talk about or refer to stray kids or think about them, this is going to be a lot of me analyzing words, relationships, behaviors, and trying really, really hard not to make assumptions about like inner workings of anyone's mind or like doing psychodynamic analysis or anything like that, but it might still be uncomfortable. So my recommendation is that if you're watching this and you're just uncomfortable and all you are is uncomfortable, don't. But if you're watching this and you are both uncomfortable but also interested or also fascinated by something, maybe it indicates a place for growth and opportunity to learn a little bit more, in which case maybe interact with it on a small scale. A reasonable scale for whatever your comfort level is. I bring up in these series a lot of potentially triggering, potentially complex conversations, and I don't really shy away from a lot of things, though I do try to put appropriate content warnings if something really feels like it gets to a point of potentially like being really triggering as a surprise to people. But overall, this is an analysis of a lot of things that might be difficult to experience. So take your time if you need to take your time. But yes, other than that, most of this is educational content leveraging and using media that is well known and understood. As I said on one of my very, 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 very first reaction videos, what I'm doing a lot of is saying, if I were in the place of a therapist, these are the questions I would have about this situation, and maybe some of the things I would recommend in somebody seeking assessment, diagnosis, or talking further to a therapist if they're experiencing something similar. So this is a lot about what you as Stay might relate to in the kids and how that might be beneficial for you. I'm really, really, really honored that a number of people have told me that my series has helped convince them to seek therapeutic services or diagnostics themselves, or they've really discovered a lot about themselves or other people watching this, and that's really why I'm doing this. So I don't want anybody to be confused in me in thinking that I'm trying to say that anybody is that I'm trying to diagnose people for the sake of entertainment. I'm trying to identify traits that people might relate to in order to be an educational resource for them. That all being said, this is free educational resources. If my content is helpful for you, you could subscribe on Twitch. I'd really appreciate a subscription here because I can't monetize until I have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. You can also support my Supercast if you would like to set up a monthly recurring type of Patreon-esque thing. Overall, I really, really try not to paywall like any of my content, so I don't have a lot of like special things for people who give me money over people who don't, because I really don't want to paywall content. But if you do decide to give me money and you have thoughts about what could be useful for supporters, you're always free to let me know. And with that, I do believe I've said everything that I need to say. Love you. Thank you so much, Stay. And let's get on with whatever this video is. Okay. Now, time for Bangchan and Felix, which I said I would not make me cry. I've committed to not crying this time. And I don't think people believed me when I told them that I wouldn't cry. And that's rude of them. Because I'm not going to. What I know about this episode is that Bangchan starts saying sup cunt, which, like, relatable, love that. They talk about not getting along for some portion, and lots of people made memes about the Maniac tour after this. And very little else. I know very little else about what happens in this episode. Somebody told me they cried and that they didn't believe I wouldn't. But I'm not going to. I'm done with that. I don't care about friendship like that anymore. I do probably suspect, just because a lot of stuff with Felix, I end up talking about the Sunglix stuff. But besides that, you know, obviously I've said a lot about Chan, and I will probably continue to have a lot to say about Chan, but that just is what it is.
데뷔,
Aww.
서바이벌. 이거 다 하나 맞출 수 있을 것 같은데. 이거는 영국 갔을 때나 당연히 이거는 우리 백도 보라색 머리 했을 때 레반타. 와 이거는 좀 언제야? 아 이거는 믹스테이프, 서바이벌, 킹덤. 우와.
Was this necessary, Youngbok?
아 이거 데뷔 완전 데뷔 초에 뭐 부산 아니면
아니 이거 사진 왜 가지고 있지? 연습생 때 맞나? 기억이 안 나네.
와 연습생 헬로윈 파티. 진짜 애기 같다. 찬이 형도 이때 애기 얼굴 있었네. 아무래도 이때가 좀 귀엽지 않았나? 이 시절 때는
That was. I thank you, caption editors, because I had the same. I wish that you had told me though what was going on, because I feel like maybe in context that would have made more sense. But no, you're going to make it. You're gonna be editors and not give me the context, and I no longer trust you that it doesn't make sense because you didn't give me any context. So I don't know.
되게 많이 남은 게 어서와 이런 느낌이 많이 들었을 때 그때여서
Oh.
그때도 재밌었지. 다시 돌아온 느낌이네. 너무 기억에 많이 남는다.
10%는 그거죠. 이제 제가 놓친 부분들. 아 맞다, 릭스가 이런 거 좋아하지, 이런 거 안 좋아하지, 뭐 이런 거.
한 90이지 않을까요? 저는 사람을 약간 완전히 알 수 없다고 생각해요. 좀 이상할 것 같은데 사람을 100% 알면 90.
Meanwhile, Seung-bin, Mr. 120% whatever, stupid. You see, this is the level-headed response that we got from Seung-min and IN. Very reasonable, very level-headed response. And that... How is it that I said I wasn't going to crash on about friendship, and now somehow I'm crashing on about Seung-bin again? Again! Again! I hate myself. I don't care about friendship.
이건 어느 정도 같이 이제 오래 함께 했으니까 연습생 때 그냥 근데 너무 엄청 막 달라졌다는 생각은 많이 안 들어서 그때도 리더였으니까 그만큼 지금도 같다고 생각합니다.
용감하다 해야 되나? 그냥 깡이 있어요. 얘가 하면 한다 느낌. 어떻게든 애써서 버티는 그 모습이 좀 멋있는 것 같아요.
I suspect that it's going to say something about their relationship, and maybe they'll bring it up, maybe they won't. I don't know. Maybe it'll become relevant, maybe not. But I think it says, you know, and even in the captioning, it says to Felix, like, Bangchan is an internal leader. I suspect that maybe when they say how well do you know each other, maybe what Felix is hearing that as is like, and he actually, and again, this is like, it's a produced show, edits are made, there's a story they're trying to tell, because he said, in that case about knowing, like, how well do you know somebody, and what I got the impression from that as is that he asked for clarification. Potentially, or like there was some conversation had with somebody, and then he was like, in that case, maybe 90%. I have a feeling that when they're talking about knowing each other, at least what Felix is maybe talking about is like knowing what's happened in their lives, or like knowing about what they like and don't like, or knowing about like sort of these maybe more like factual things rather than like how much do you feel like you understand their soul on a deep emotional level, right? Which is what I hear when I hear how well do you know each other, because I'm a therapist, right? So like, of course, that's what I think of. But because if Felix is like, I don't think he's really changed since we were trainees, that does not seem to be in alignment with reality as we have witnessed it, as anyone else has talked about it, right? Like that Chris is very much like very the same, that he acts the same, that he has the same like behaviors and things like that he did when they were trainees, right? Even Changbin, he like Chen and Changbin talked about this a little bit. What that could possibly indicate is talking about like the type of relationship that Felix has with Chan potentially means that Felix has not experienced Chan being particularly different. Or that like Felix's relationship with Chan hasn't changed that much, so he doesn't see the ways he might have changed outside of that relationship. This is not uncommon, especially with people who, you know, as I've sort of talked about with Felix before, seem to have a hard time understanding the experiences of other people, right? They understand the experiences of other people through a lot of like question and answering, through a lot of like purposeful imagination, through sort of like fictional experiences and then application, right? Things like that. Who struggle to elaborate on their own experiences, things like that. Just a little. It's a pretty common phenomena where they mostly understand somebody else's growth through their own personal experiences with that person, rather than necessarily through sort of like more of a objective lens of this is how they've changed overall. I'm not necessarily saying that's the case here. It's difficult for me to reconcile reality as we have seen it throughout the years, the things that other members have said, what Chris has said himself about himself, with Felix's statement that he hasn't changed much. That doesn't seem in alignment, so just trying to like assess why it might be that seems to diverge. Glad we got that out. Oh, that's right. I also know that he's really cute with this cat.
Scared me. Oh, what?
It's so funny.
Sup? Oh, what? Scared me.
I saw somebody talking about like the editors, like, or the producers not making him do like a retake of that cut or something, and I just do need to remind everybody that like there's not somebody sitting in the room with them. Like they have to work with what they're given to work with, because there's not. But there might be people monitoring, but there might also not be people monitoring actively, because there's, I think, like there's like a number of cameras put in throughout this room. So like I don't know that they would have necessarily known until footage was there that also they really missed out on the opportunity to, instead of a doorbell, use the picture sound. Use Hyunshin's bleep sound. I think that's really a shame, because I think that's what they should have done.
너무 오랜만이다. Do you know how long it's been?
4년 전, I think. I think so, yeah.
So we're leaping 4 years into from there.
It's exactly a leap year.
4년이래요. 이런 사람인데.
That face that Felix made was such a like I'm fucking sick of this motherfucker. That I make that face a lot at my D&D crew.
4년이래요. 이런 사람인데.
Have you tried the new Genshin update?
Nah, dude, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, Felix!
Betrayal.
Dude, I've been playing so much LOL.
저는 이제 좀 릭스한테 조금 배신감을.
아니 뭔 배신감이야? 게임 삭제 안 했어.
아니, 왜냐면 이제 제 요새 삶의 낙이 원신이란 말이지. 원신만 하면 행복하고 그냥 너무
Chris has such single gamer dude behavior about Genshin. Like, he really does. So much.
스트레스 받아도 원신하면 이렇게 다 풀려.
And I love that for
근데
him.
원신을 처음으로 소개시켜준 사람이 릭스였던 거지. 그래서 할 때마다 이제 릭스한테 너무 고마운 거야. 그러면 이제 너도 알잖아. 친구 목록 the friends list, right? 거기 들어가면은 이제 릭스가
하고 있다.
언제 마지막으로 들어왔는지가 보여. 근데 그게 한 2달 전이야. 그러면 이제 릭스가 날 이렇게 끌어왔는데 릭스는 안 하고.
귀엽다.
근데 대신 난 요새
What did I say just last episode about how sensitive Chan is? He's so sensitive.
진짜 너무 열심히 재밌게 하고 있어.
재밌으면 됐지.
근데 릭스 같은 경우는 지금 롤에
꽂혀 있지.
형 솔직한 얘기 하는데
Always.
릭스랑 그리고 뭐 창빈이랑 이렇게 같이 롤 하고 싶어.
응. 하면 되지.
근데 솔직히 이게 좀 무서워.
뭐예요?
너무 늘어서. You're platinum, right?
3. 올라가고 있어.
그러니까 플래티넘인데 분명 옛날에 막
The fucking stimming with this fucking cat. It's so precious. I love this cat.
그러니까 플래티넘인데 분명
I
옛날에 막
could
같이
watch
이제
that
재미를
for so
썼을 때
long. It's like a
그때는
visual
제가
stim
좀 더 잘하는 줄
for me to
알고
watch him
막
do
릭스가
this
그러면
tactile
안 돼!
stim.
야 릭스 이거 안 돼! 이러면서 했었던 것 같은데 그때 이제 조금씩 이제 릭스도 약간 삐지기도 하고 이제 릭스가 삐져서 저도 삐지고
그거 완전 옛날인데? 약간 3년, 4년 전인가?
맞아 완전 옛날 근데 그건 있는 것 같아 좀 다른 얘기긴 한데 릭스랑 뭔가 트러블이 있거나 하면은 바로 해결하려고 하는 것 같기는 해 To be honest, 옛날에는 안 그랬던 것 같은데 삐지고 막 서로 막 얘기 안 하고 막 이랬었던 것 같은데
그치.
요새는 완전 그냥 혹시 내가 좀 그랬냐 뭐 이런 식으로
그치.
많이 대화해서 풀려고 하긴 하지.
이거 좋은 거지. 제일 나도 그걸 많이 느끼니까 많이 그래도 편해졌지.
더 좋은 형이 되고 싶어서 스트레이트로 릭스한테 형 오늘 어땠어? 좀 부끄럽긴 하지만 그랬었어요. 네.
노력하는 게 정말 리스펙인 것 같아. 그렇게 쉽지 않은데 멤버들의 의견도 많이 잘 들어주면서 노력하려고 하는 게 너무 멋진 리더라고 생각합니다.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is sort of this dynamic wherein, especially when Felix was even less confident in himself and his capacity and, you know, much younger and sort of very much viewed Chan in this very, like, kind of rigid older brother leader role. That would be really intimidating for somebody, even somebody who tends towards being more direct about conflict. You know, even in the Two Kids room a few years ago, Changbin brought up that Felix is the type to bring things up like quickly, but in that type of hierarchical view of a power dynamic, right? There's both a implicit power dynamic and an explicit power dynamic. It can be really difficult for the one who is in the lesser role of power to decide to bring up a conflict with somebody they both, who both has like, they see as having power and authority over them, and also they really respect. So it probably would have taken Chan deciding that he was going to start being, you know, asking for that feedback to start really getting to him. I really wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. This is something really important to think about when we think about power dynamics and when we think about sort of requesting feedback from people, is both like there's structural, systemic, implicit, and explicit roles of power. and that really, really can impact the way that people decide to inform you and give you feedback. And what can happen is that somebody in the like more powerful position can assume like, oh, this person tends to be really direct about giving feedback. If I'm not getting feedback, that means everything's fine. But that's really not the case, right? That's forgetting the way that power dynamics play into our behaviors. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was some of what they're referring to, of like this difficulty in addressing things directly, because then also like Chris is sensitive, and there's all kinds of things that could have been going through his head if he was noticing a problem. But I could see that would make a lot of sense to me.
근데 솔직하게 봤으면 좋겠어요? 아니면 형도 불편할 수도 있으니까 말 안 하는 게 좋을까요?
I want you to be straight up. 물론 나도 듣고 불편할 수도 있지. But I think that's something that I have to be mature about.
Like, do you think it's mature to tell you like how I truly feel?
그거는 완전.
Yeah, like even that, right? So like you can still see how much Felix is putting Chan in that role of like the adult in the room, right? Like he's asking him like, do you want, I think it's fair to ask, do you want me to be straight up when I give you feedback? But like, one, I have a suspicion Chan has tried to say this before. And two, again, that question of like, well, is it mature for me to tell you how I really feel? This also goes into the like, Felix really wants to make people happy, not make people uncomfortable, be friendly, and does seem to struggle with building his own internal conceptualization of like social dynamics. Right? Like he really seems to want to have an understanding of like what do other people think? What do other people do to build my conception of what I think is like right or fair or a wise decision? I have a hard time conceptualizing a way in which it would be immature to tell somebody, you're sort of like, be honest with somebody like that. But if you don't have a strong sense of the concept of maturity, if that's not like a definitional, if you don't have a quality in your mind of what that means, then you're just sort of ping-ponging off of like, well, like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Because people don't always respond well when you give them direct feedback. So does that mean it's the wrong thing to do? Right? Like, it's interesting.
좋지. 완전 필요하지. Because you can't just hold it in yourself for too long. Like if you need someone to talk to, or if you just want to let it out, or if you want to be emotional. Yeah. I can be, that punching bag, and I can listen to it. Like, I'm being legit, because
I don't want to hurt you. Punching bag. I'll think of it not as punching bag, but as like a comfortable, like pillow to lean on.
그치. Yeah.
Oh, that was a mess. Everything about that was a mess. First of all, Chan. Honey, please don't try to convince people to use you as their punching bags, as like their emotional punching bag. That's a mess. Don't do that. What, honey? Today in screaming about things Bangchan does. Please. I just don't. And then Felix just being like, I don't like that. I'm not going to. I think it's really sweet to instead take the metaphor and go in a different direction with it. I think Felix is like pretty good at metaphors. He seems to work pretty well with metaphors. But like the way he goes about it makes it really easy for Chen to dismiss. Because really what Chen needed is someone to be like, buddy, don't, no, I'm not going to treat you as an emotional punching bag here. Why don't you let me like lean on you emotionally and we can do that for each other or whatever. But like that wasn't sort of the way that Felix went about it, meant that Chan really wanted to like emphasize like, no, you like, there was just sort of a mess of an interaction. It was a sweet mess of an interaction. It was a precious mess of an interaction, but it was kind of a mess of an interaction.
Like a body pillow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
Like an anime body pillow.
No, bad example.
반지방이었으면 I feel like I'm the one torturing you.
아, 네.
Like,
Body pillow, yeah.
Oh, body pillow.
And see, they didn't actually, because of this mess of an interaction, they didn't actually get to the, like, point that either of them needed the other one to get to. God, I wouldn't be surprised if that, like, if that's how their interactions tend to go, of, like, we almost got somewhere, and then we just, like, got fully off track in this weird, like, semantic hurdle, and then never came back to the original thing, like, that's also not a good way to resolve conflict. Like, just getting distracted, and then, because, like, that was a mini conflict. There was a mini conflict there. You know, conflict is not always fighting. Conflict is just, like, not being 100% on the same page. There was a mini conflict there. They did not resolve the conflict. The conflict they resolved was the metaphor, but not the actual. Like, because what Chad needed Felix to internalize was, please be open and talk to me. And even if it feels hard, or even if you're afraid that I'll be uncomfortable, or even, you know, whatever, please do it anyway. Like, I can handle difficult things. And what Felix needed Chan to internalize was, like, I want to be open and honest with you, but I'm not going to, like, I really don't want to be told to do it in a way that'll hurt you. I want to be able to do it in a way that still, like, is gentle to you. So how can I do that? You know, how can I be open and honest in a way that's not going to do you damage? And that's what they needed to resolve. And that is not what got resolved. At all. A mess. An absolute mess. Adorable mess. Precious mess. God bless him. A mess.
근데 옛날에는 I used to like release my feelings a lot.
It says
feel like
release,
these
not
days-
express. That's a big,
모르겠어.
that's a
상대가
different word.
불편할까봐라는 생각도 들고.
근데 멤버고 형제니까 그런 불편한 것도 다 감안할 수 있지 않을까?
근데 뭐 하면 하지. If I feel like it.
예. 근데 고민 같은 거는 맞아, 나도 뭐 예를 들어 고민 같은 거 할 수 있지 않을까? 근데 멤버고
모르겠어. 상대가 불편.
Obviously, I have opinions about this, but I don't think that they're useful opinions to really talk in depth about. It's just, obviously, that's not, you know, that's not one of those things that I think he would tell to one of his friends who are crying, right? Like, that's one of those things where, you know, people say things like this in session all the time, and the answer is, like, if one of your friends was crying and you were a little uncomfortable, like, would you be judgmental about them for it? And they'd be like, no, obviously not. And we'd have to unpack, like, okay, so what makes you, like, why does this rule only apply to you? But that's just like run-of-the-mill.
편할까봐라는 생각도 들고.
근데 멤버고 형제니까 그런 불편한 것도 다 감안할 수 있지 않을까?
근데 뭐 하면 하지.
Okay, so there was a cut there, and I don't know if that means anything or not. This just felt like a really abrupt sentence. Yeah, this feels like a really abrupt change of direction, and again, might be a translation or a context thing, but it's that it feels a little strange.
I feel like it.
예. 근데 고민 같은 거는 맞아. 나도 뭐 예를 들어 호주에 대한 고민 같은 거 있으면은 릭스랑 얘기 많이 하는 것 같고. 야 우리 호주 언제 또 마지막으로
Yeah, that makes sense.
갔었냐, 뭐 너 안 가고 싶냐 아니면
호주. If we bring up the topic naturally, 그냥 호주 가고 싶긴 해.
Yeah, right. Like comes out naturally. It's like, oh, I want to go back to Australia.
형도 멀리서 왔고 나도 멀리 온 상태에서 그만큼 형도 공감되고 뭐 예를 들면 쉬고 싶을 때는 뭐 호주 가고 싶을 때나 또 있고 그만큼 더 잘 지켜봐야겠다라는 생각이 들어요.
아까 사진 보는데 우리 호주 갔을 때도 그때도 되게 좋았고.
평온했어. It felt good.
It was Meadowbank, right?
Yeah.
We met.
Yeah, I wonder if it's actually true that Chan does the same thing. I don't know if he's talked about this before or not. Obviously not to my recollection, has he? But, you know, that he kind of gets this greater sense of, like, original homesickness when he's having a hard time, or if that is something where Felix knows that about himself and his experiences, and so he's sort of making an extrapolation that it could be that Chan also has that and those experiences. I kind of wish that they had asked Chris if that was also the case for him, and we got to see that, because I think that would lend really interesting perspective into Felix's actual, like, understanding of the whole situation. That'd be interesting to know.
Up at Meadowbank, and then we were looking out at the bay, and we were like, wow.
The water very still.
Yeah, it was like so peaceful.
Just eating nice food. Even it wasn't scheduled. It was nothing compared to a schedule, but like just free time. It was good. It was very healing.
I still remember back then when I had a really bad emotional crisis, and then we went to 한강 together.
예, 한강. 나 그거 진짜 좋아하는데.
그 시기 때 릭스가 그 얘기 했었잖아요. Like, you're a good guy, just how you present it, or how you 전달하냐에 따라 you can change everything. 그거를, like, it's still in my head. Like, I still sometimes look back at the 카톡 messages that we had, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, alright, I gotta check this. 이러면서.
In general, you're just this down-to-earth person. But then when emotions come in, it can completely change anyone. So like, it's how you stay in control. 근데 너무 그게 잘 한 거지, 형.
멤버들.
Yeah, this is something that you know, I get this impression of Felix that because he spends so much time asking questions and, like, trying to delve into the world around him, there are certain patterns that he really picks up about people and about what they're doing, and that when he feels like he's you know, when he's being asked his opinion, it's not necessarily that, like, he doesn't want to give it. It's just about, like, is it okay to give it in what type of format? And especially something like this, right? If he's aware that, something that I find is that when people are very aware of the behaviors of others, they can become concerned about their own behaviors. So let's say that people are aware that other people can react from a place of emotion in ways that come off, antisocially or cruelly or confusingly or whatever issue. He knows that when people are emotional, they can respond like that. And what can happen is that people can get into their heads about like, well, I'm kind of emotional about this thing. So what if I don't present it in the right way? Or what if the way that I bring it up really hurts them, right? We can even think about the Sungjin episode where, Felix lives with Seungmin and at least as far as we're aware, has been quite close to Hyunjin for at least for a very long portion of their career together. I guess we'll find out more about that whenever that episode comes out. But, he's very, very close to probably the most, like, sometimes maybe even callously blunt member, and has been close to some of the most sensitive members, right? And sort of picking up on that dynamic. And I could really see it happening as well, that people can like get in their heads. Like I've seen this happen with clients a number of times, is getting into their heads about like, what if I'm not seeing my behaviors the way that they're actually coming across? And so now I'm more concerned about being upfront or being forthright or giving feedback to people who I don't already really know exactly how they'll take it, right? Like these people, I know exactly how they'll take it. I'm not worried about it. But these people, I'm not exactly sure how they'll take it. And maybe they don't want me to bring it up like that, right? So that's another thing that can sort of happen when people are like highly aware of that dynamic and when they're able to like give really good advice. I find a lot of times that a lot of people who are really able to give good advice to their friends about their friends' behavior sometimes have some of the hardest time with their own behaviors and like seeing them objectively, or not objectively, but like not triple guessing themselves. I think that people believe that people who give really good advice are like deeply inherently empathetic, but sometimes they're also just really good at pattern seeking and pattern putting together and like doing a lot of analysis of situations, because that's what they've felt like they've sort of had to do in order to understand the world around them.
너무 편하니까 나도 모르게 감정이 막 이렇게 막 나오는 거야.
그렇지. Yeah. But like that's the most manliest yet respectful thing I can give you credit for. Because you work on it. And you think 그리고 그렇게 하니까 I think that's the most manliest thing.
Still working on it.
완벽할 수 없지 또. 충분히 잘하고 있다고 생각합니다. 길을 잘 찾아가고 있는 형이라고 생각해요. 길은 이제 발견됐으니.
And the fact that Felix now is able to like that was actually really well done, like strengths-based feedback is like, hey, the thing you really struggle with is how you end up communicating your passion, and the fact that you've done so much work on it, that you do care so deeply, that you are trying to sort of be, I don't want to use the words in control around Chan, because his relationship with control is already so over-controlled, and probably a lot of his issues with his emotionality are due to his overall over-controlled nature. That's a very, very common. Generally, when we are super over-controlled about our environment, it's because we feel very out of control of our own emotions, and we're trying to control our own emotions or our own situations in some other way. but like it doesn't really work to control your emotions. You can really only control your behaviors regardless. So I don't want to use Felix's terms of like being in control of it, but like, you know, regulating yourself to respond appropriately, regardless of how intense your feelings are, right? So that was like really good strengths-based feedback that Felix just gave. And I would bet that as Felix has become more confident in his ability to understand the world, give that type of feedback, know what type of feedback he's giving, because, 17-year-olds historically not as good at giving feedback as a 25-year-old. They've also probably developed a closer relationship because, Felix has been able to do what Chan wanted him to do and give him feedback and address problems. And Chan has been able to respond more appropriately to Felix giving feedback as Chris has grown up, right?
걸어갈 거냐, 뛸 거냐, 형의 선택인데 그런 모습들을 좀 잘 챙겨보고 있는 것 같아요.
고마운 게 있다면, because I feel like out of the members, like you're one of the people that really know how my personality is, and you deal with that. So I'm just very, very thankful.
If I had it's very recent. When we did the 녹음 at your house?
Oh yeah.
진짜 너무 재밌었고 오히려 I felt really comfortable in singing.
Really?
It made me feel really confident.
Really?
When I was doing 녹음. 그거는 how do I say? It didn't feel like a schedule to me.
I mean, you did good too. 진짜 잘하긴
really?
했어. 근데 요새 릭스 노래하는 부분에서 녹음이 너무 좋아서 진짜 칭찬밖에 할 수 없고 그냥 노래든 랩이든 like the way you use your voice 할 수 있는 게 너무 많거든.
근데 하는 곡들 좀 몇 개 있긴 있어요.
Okay. That's good.
근데 와 스리라차 진짜 대단한 게 들으면 너무 재밌고 말 앞뒤가 말 너무 잘 되고 근데 내가 쓰면 약간 너무 싫어.
No, but you write good. Yeah.
One of these days, these boys will take a compliment. One of these days, these boys will take a compliment. One of these, I'm manifesting it. I'm manifesting these boys taking, accepting, incorporating a compliment into their reality instead of hearing a compliment and going, oh, no. That's all you. That's not me. That's you. I just want them to take a compliment. This is all I want. All I want.
너무 잘 되고 근데 내가 쓰면 약간 너무 싫어.
No, but you write good. Yeah,
아니야,
춤에만
진짜.
봐도 I was like, whoa.
춤은 너무 약간
Yeah, he's still pretty self-deprecating. Instead of seeing things as where he wants to grow, he instead sees like where he didn't do as well. And I think it's a really important mindset shift of like, okay, this is kind of the area I want to continue growing in, and versus like I have all of these issues and flaws, because the latter tends towards like that deficits-based thinking tends towards avoiding failure and avoiding sort of confronting those flaws, or results in over control in some other way you're confronting those flaws, so you find attempts at perfectionism or other things in other ways that could potentially be related to some of the stuff that I've talked about in the past with Felix and like food, things like that can be super duper common, versus when we think about like God, I hate to use the term growth mindset, but it's not a totally bullshit term, just like what corporate did to it is bullshit, but like that emphasis on where is it that I want to move into, what do I want to grow into, that can give you instead more motivation to continue to do hard things so that you can be able to do those skills really well, you know.
더 잘할 수 있을 거라고 생각했는데 every time we write a lyric 너무 마음에 안 들면 다시 삭제하고 약간 갇혀 있어.
Yeah, so you know how sometimes I'll say things and then I'll be immediately right. That's yeah, just like that, right? When you're highly self-deprecating or when you're really focused on not being as good at something as the people around you, or et cetera and so forth, it just does not tend to result in enthusiastically doing that thing, right?
Oh no, it's fine.
너 쓰고 근데 안 되나? Like you guys have a very diverse spectrum. Whatever you write, you guys can write anything. I don't even know how to like stay in one line. 난 그래서 그게 너무 멋있는 것 같아.
아 근데 릭스
나 그런 포텐셜이 없는 것 같아.
야 근데 너가 그렇게 비교하면 안 돼. Cause you're by yourself. 우리는 세 명이 있잖아. 그럼 당연히 그렇게 되겠.
Yeah, and Chan is going to struggle with this because Chan is trying to resolve this in like a logical, practical way. There's a modality of therapy called emotionally focused family therapy. It's primarily used in eating disorders. That's what it's evidence-based for. And it's not emotionally focused therapy. It's emotionally focused family therapy. It's primarily used in eating disorders. That's what it's evidence-based for, but I use it in parent coaching a lot. And I find that it's beneficial for most types of coaching. And one of the things that it sort of talks about is that you can't really solve, you can't go straight from like problem to solving the practical problem. You have to first do like an emotional validation step, and then you have to sort of solve for the emotional problems. And so when somebody is sort of thinking from this like very, like, there's just something a little bit off about the cognition, like it's not fully in alignment with reality, like as it is. You have to sort of first figure out like, okay, what is the emotion behind that? And that's true. Like that's obviously from like a coaching perspective, from like Chan's perspective, from a practical, like how do you go through these types of conversations? But this is the basic fundamentals of that is true in any type of cognitive therapy, right? So whether it's CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, whether it's cognitive processing therapy, you know, even just like our standard cognitive therapy, is this idea that thoughts are linked to emotions, right? Our thoughts, our beliefs generate emotions that can then generate more thoughts that can then generate more emotions that eventually result in actions. So, you know, you sort of have to interpret like, what are the feelings that are being, or that are like creating this before you can actually start to confront that belief. So Chan is trying to confront that belief, but he's not gonna be able to really help Felix internalize that because it's not a belief that's 100% based in logic, right? And it might not even be a belief that Felix does fully logically believe. I'll sometimes say to clients like, do you believe that logically or just emotionally, right? Do you logically believe that like you should be at the same skill level in writing lyrics that the team of Thuracha is? Or is that more of an emotional belief? And it might be both, right? But yeah, just trying to like use logic to break it down at this point probably isn't going to get him anywhere. Probably wouldn't get most people anywhere, right? It's not a very effective method when you haven't done, there's like a whole bunch of pre-work that has to go into this, right? It's like trying to teach somebody, it's like trying to explain trigonometry to somebody who doesn't know algebra, right? We're just not there yet.
But if you compare just like one-on-one, 비슷해. 그리고 너도 잘해.
아, 그래요?
잘하고 있고 가능성도 너무 있고. You just keep that in. Yeah. 그러면서 계속 하는 거지.
아, 그게
계속 부딪히면서 또 다시 쓰고. Yo, man, we do that all the time, bro.
자주 그렇게 해야 많이 느나 보네.
Yeah.
그렇게 해야겠다.
잘하고 있어. You're doing.
Yeah, and like usually you're able to convince them of that for, a little bit. And like it's helpful when it's somebody you really respect telling you like you just got to keep doing it over and over and over again. But I do think it's also probably not to his benefit to be like, oh yes, despite the fact that we have each individually done hours and hours and hours of practice over and over and over, running back and forth and hitting walls and coming back and forth, and we have really leveled up that skill, you're on the same level as any of us individually. Because probably that's not true. Because probably Felix has not had as much practice as they have, right? And he probably needs more of that. So what can really end up happening if you just sort of give just that type of encouragement that'll help right now is that somebody will be like, yeah, okay, you're right, I can totally do this. And then they'll go back, they'll try to do it on their own, and then they'll be like, well, I know Han wrote this song all by himself. And this isn't anywhere close to that. I know that Chan wrote this song all by himself, and this song isn't anywhere close to that, right? And then it'll just almost, it can risk discouraging them even more sometimes. Like not always, but it can. So like it's a very like go get 'em buddy perspective, but it doesn't help to challenge like thoughts that are unrealistic with other things that might be unrealistic, right? It's not uncommon that I have clients who, will be doing trauma therapy and they'll have beliefs about like, I have a number of clients who have like a fear of sudden death. I've had that with a few different clients. And what will be their initial instinct for a replacement thought is like, everyone will be fine, nothing bad will happen. And it's like, that's not in the long term going to be a helpful replacement thought, because we can't assure you of that. And you're going to know that, right? You're going to know that. And it's just another way for you to try to assert control, when really what we have to do is come up with the knowledge that probably nothing terrible will happen today. And we don't actually know, right? And it's that uncertainty that you have to deal with. So, like, this can help for a moment, but it probably does not actually get somebody to do the really hard thing of working on skills that they feel really bad about, because that's just a really hard thing that sucks and isn't going to feel good for a while. And what people need to be able to cope with is like, yeah, it's not going to feel good. Like, you have to do exposure therapy. I do exposure therapy with a number of clients for working on skills they care about but don't feel good enough at. Like, that is a foundational thing. And it is a horrible experience for them. And, so some of them it's a less horrible experience. Some of them it's a more horrible experience, depending on how deep, right, it is. But, like, it is not pleasant to get over that. And you can't just say like, it'll all be okay, because the fact of the matter is that like, it's not going to feel good. And you can't just be like, well, you know, if you just believe in yourself and believe that everything will be fine, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work that way. You have to believe that you'll do it enough that you will learn to believe you can get better at it. Right? That's the thing you have to believe, is that you have to believe that like, okay, I can do the hard thing of letting this suck and still practice it every day and let it suck every day, and it will eventually suck less. I have to believe that I am capable of improving. I have to believe that I am competent, right? What Felix said about like, I just don't know if I have that potential. That is the thing that needs to change, right? It's not whether he can write this song or not. It's not like, what is your skill level currently at? It's, do you believe you are capable of being competent, like on a fundamental level? And then, do you believe that you can do the hard thing of proving to yourself that you are able to do this? Because you're going to have to go prove it to yourself. And that is very difficult work. It is very, very difficult work. And yeah, it's for a lot of people, it's not a good time until it is, right? It's not until it is. And that's just like how it goes.
지금도 너무 고마워. 왜냐면 그냥 나도 곡 쓰고 싶으니까. 근데 이제 어떻게 쓰냐, 어떤 실력을 갖고 그런 거에 대해서 잘 모르니까. 근데 너가 형이 그냥 이렇게 잘 말해주니까 그냥 크게 왔어.
I don't think if you've realized, but I've been trying to fix up the way I speak in English with you.
Oh really?
Yeah, because like I know you know, and other people probably know as well, but like the Australian accent is pretty strong if you think about it. Like 좀 세잖아.
그치,
그러니까 말투가. 그래서 좀 공격적으로 느껴질 수도 있어서 I've been trying to be very, very relaxed and elegant when I speak English with you.
Oh really? That's good. It feels good, but also I think it suits the image. 영어 발음 센 것도 우리끼리 좋은데. But I think in the way you do it is like it feels like you're aura farming.
Oh, thank you.
He's so brain rotted, which like same. I'm doing a reaction video to Stray Kids. Like, I get it. But aura farming, you're just gonna throw that one in there at me. Okay, buddy.
그게 진짜 좋은 거 같아. So wherever you go, like to do like a 행사, 그러면 I think that's pretty cool.
I don't know. I don't want to lose that that.
Oh, you still have it.
That yeah.
If it's on a important program, 뭐 멋있게 해도 되고. And then when it's not that,
mix it up. Yeah. 형도 그 생각 많이 해. 우리가 한국에서 처음 만났잖아. But we have a lot of mutuals, right?
그렇지.
왜냐면 형 친구들도 다 성당 갔었고 그때는 이제 릭스도 성당 갔었고. But do you think we would have ever run into each other if we didn't come to Korea and just stayed in Australia?
I think there's a high chance.
We might have.
That's so interesting. I don't think I knew that they discovered that they had mutual friends in Australia. Oh.
Yeah.
Because then I would have hung out with the older 형s. 성당이면 그 형들이랑 같이 시간 보내면서 형도 자연스럽게 만났을 것 같아. For sure.
Maybe. 마주칠
가능성이
수도 있었겠다.
높다고 생각해.
맞아.
I wonder if the fan fiction writers took anything from that. I bet they did. I should ask somebody who pays attention to what the fan fiction writers are doing.
Is there anything that you want from me, like a promise?
Just stay the way you are. The way you are is 그대로 난 너무 좋아.
Alright, I will try to keep it that way.
남자답게 말할 거 있으면 뭐 풀고 그냥 moving on, you know what I mean? 진짜 그게 진짜 I like that.
나도 릭스한테 원하는 약속이 있다면 뭐 지금도 릭스가 편하겠지만 좀 더 나랑
기대했으면.
좋겠다. And then I'll try my best to help you out as much as I can. Yeah.
No thanks.
If you're okay with it.
뭐 정말 불편한 게도 없고 지금이 딱 서로한테 얘기도 잘 의견도 들어주고 하는 그 시기여서 너무 편해요.
기회가 돼서 릭스랑 진짜 좀 솔직한 얘기를 하고 단둘이 진지한 얘기를 좀 나눌 수 있었던 것 같은데 되게 좋았던 것 같아요. 속이 후련한 느낌.
It's really nice that they've could sort of tell us that story of like that personal growth between them of like, you know, it wasn't always this way, but like we don't necessarily have to harp on the way it had been. And now there really isn't anything uncomfortable between us, right? And I think that like we've heard enough about how Lix has changed to be able to internalize like some of and interpret some of that change and like where that comfortability comes from him. And we've heard enough about how Chris has changed to interpret some of, you know, where that's come from him. But like ultimately just that as they've grown older, probably some of that, both the sense of what their responsibility within their kind of role in the relationship was has shifted. Both of them have become slightly more comfortable with who they are, especially Felix has become more comfortable with who he is. And Chris has become more focused on sort of creating comfortable interpersonal relationships, whereas early on in their relationships, he was so focused on just like keeping the band going, right? And keeping the members going and like what work was. And I think also his own insight into his relationship with Control. And just, yeah, that like now they're super comfortable with each other. Is Felix... Does he have a tag on his... Does Felix have a giant fucking tag on the back of his shirt? That can't be what that is, right? There's no way. There's no way he's wearing that a tag that massive on the back of his shirt. I have to be seeing that wrong.
Sorry for all the hard times, bro.
It's alright. Dude, it happens. It happens.
I still remember that time when we were on stage and you started full crying, and I was like,
When?
It was like ages ago, Maniac Tour. Because we were on bad stuff.
Was it black hair?
맞아. 그래서 서로 막 얘기 안 하고 이러다가 이제 소감하면서 이제 릭스 막 울고.
People like crashed out about that back and forth. I don't know that was a crash out worthy back and forth. Because they're not really telling us what it means by being on quote unquote bad stuff, or what he means by in a while. And like Chan also has a tendency again of being really self-deprecating and really sensitive. So like right before this, he being like, I'm sorry for anything that I've done that made things hard. It just seems like he's just giving a general apology for existing, which he is known to do. And Felix is probably almost used to at this point. Yeah, I mean, sucks that they were apparently in a conflict. Don't know anything else about that conflict.
and then 나도 울고 이러면 릭스 이러면서 미안해 형이 미안해.
있었어.
아니야 나도 미안해.
그때 난리 났지. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, they must have been just a mess during the Maniac Tour in general, right? Like, they had been living on top of each other for so long, and then they went on tour, right? Like, they just had, like, bullshit after bullshit happening to them, right? Because Woojin left, and then there was COVID, and then there was Kingdom, and Hyunjin's hiatus, and then they very suddenly got very big. like Thunderous was a huge success in comparison, like, to anything they had done prior. And like that really amplifies pressure. And like that's just like, they had all of that, and then they had a tour, and I just and they, until like what, the end of 2021, had been living in that horrible dorm. There's just no way that like, yeah, no, that of course they all would have been pissed off at each other. Yeah. I like, God, I don't know. I saw a lot of crashing out about like, why was everyone so upset during the Maniac tour? Like, I don't know. That's just like, that's a bad several years. Oh, and then like Felix had his herniated disc, which at that point, like, who knows how long it had actually been hurting. And he would have been internalizing and realizing that like this is probably a lifelong injury at that point. Like, that's just like a lot of bad stuff. I don't know. I feel like of course everyone was like on edge. You know. God, I wouldn't have been the best version of me. I would have been the worst version of me. Are you kidding me? God.
하나, 둘, 셋. 하나, 둘, 셋. 둘, 셋. 좋네, 이런. 너무 좋았다. Hey, Chris. 너무 잘하는.
Not the gremlin voice.
많이 성장을 하고 있다. As a human and as a man, wish you the best in life.
He didn't sign his name.
Hey, bro. We've obviously had our ups and downs, but
He didn't say bro. He said bruv. Subtitle it correctly.
just don't forget that your brother is always here for you, and that he really, really loves you. Cheers for everything, mate. Laters.
He also didn't capture laters with a Z. Okay, I didn't crash out about friendship. I'm good. I didn't cry about friendship. I'm great. I'm also very tired, so maybe that's why. But, you know, whatever. There was no crying about friendship. It's a success, in my opinion. Yeah, they were not as, that was like a conversation about the two of them that was sort of interesting. Like, I mean, it was quite interesting. There was a lot of really interesting stuff that happened there. It wasn't really as much about their relationship. They both kind of, they didn't like give us a lot of like stories or things like that, which is fine. It was clearly the conversation that they wanted and needed to have. I think it is sort of interesting to see like both the way they communicate. I can see very clearly how there could have been a lot of miscommunications in the past, and how, you know, they would have been able to come closer together because there is also a certain level of like, there is that comfortability there, you know. I'm always glad to be being told these stories when we, or not these stories, but being told, I guess, these thoughts about each other when we know that it's a good place right now, or at least when we're being told that. Yeah, that was a really sweet episode. It was really cute. It was, you know, really dynamically interesting. I will probably rewatch it a few times because it's definitely one of those things where there's a lot that happened from a dynamics perspective, from a like them giving us sort of subtle information that I don't think I'm either like awake or processing quickly enough to like have super picked up on in the moment. But like there's a lot of depth there that I know it's going to take a little bit more rewatching for me to feel like I've got. And I might end up actually rewatching it after I've seen all of the other ones, and see if that lends any further perspective that ends up being helpful, because I feel like there's a little bit there as well, wherein I think that it might be easier to see the nuance and depth of that conversation with more information than with just the information provided on screen. But yeah, in the meantime, it's bedtime. Content updates. I'm finally mostly caught up on Two Kids Room. I only have a few episodes I haven't seen. Obviously tomorrow's will come out, but what that means is that I'm going to take a little bit of a break from this to just finally finish recording the next podcast episode. So hopefully that'll be out soon. It's long, so it'll take me a little bit to edit, but hopefully that'll be out soon. And then my episodes of this that I recorded last week that are on VOD on Twitch, I will put out at some point this week. And that's me. Okay, well, good chatting with you all, I guess. Not that anyone chatted with me, but you were here. And I knew that, and I felt it in my soul. So, yeah. Bye.